Hey guys, Duel here back on the SMA channel, and this is part 5. What if Nagisa had the sharingan? I'm just gonna move this real quick. Now, this episode is gonna cover 2 of the anime's episodes, and yeah. So, I believe I left off with Nagisa leaving the classroom, but time skip about 3 hours. He's back in his house, chilling. And he's just sitting on his bed, scrolling through his phone, and he sees an ad. And this ad is for hunting knives, and he sees that the shop is within walking distance of his house. He sees this and says, considering I use knives so much, maybe it'd be a good idea to get a real one in case I have to fight someone other than Kuro-sensei. So what he does is, he opens up his mattress, grabs 100, grabs 100, and walks down, and leaves, puts on his shoes, hoodie, and walks down to the store. When he goes in, he finds hunting knives, and he sees a pocket knife. He's looking at it, and he thinks, no, I would rather have something more, what's the word? Sturdy. So as he's looking through, and he sees a what a good knife for Nagisa to look like. Let's say he sees a stainless steel version of the knife they use in the anime, but it's metal. He sees it and he says, that's good. So what he does, he buys it. He has an ID because he's over 18 now. He buys it, grabs the sheath, and tucks it under his shirt. Goes home, goes to sleep, wakes up, goes to school the next day. In 2 days, it'd be midterms. And currently, Kuro-sensei is doing his split thing, where he is using his speed to split his personality and teach every student individually. Now, when he gets to Nagisa, he says, Nagisa, in your opinion, do you think you need me to tutor you? Now, Nagisa looks at Kuro-sensei and says, no, I think I have most of the curriculum down, so if you want, I could help you. I don't mind tutoring a couple of students to give you a small break. As Nagisa says it, he says, well, thank you, Nagisa, that'd be much appreciated. So Nagisa stands up, walks over to Kanade, and says, so what would you say is your worst subject? She says, well, I'm having problems with math. He says, he smirks a bit and says, well, this is going to be easier than I thought. He grabs her hand and shows her how the problem works. She's looking at it, she turns her head a bit, and then realizes, this isn't hard at all. With the formula Nagisa gave her, she's pretty much got most of the math down. She says thank you, as he says, here you go, as he hands her a paper, and says, this is what you should expect on the midterms. She looks over it, and the problems are extremely hard. And then it clicks. The problems, solutions, the equations, system, all of it. And she gets a 98 on the test Nagisa gave her. He hands it to Kuro-sensei and says, this is Kayane's results on the math. I prefer if you didn't look at it till we leave class. Kuro-sensei takes it and says, well, thank you. And then he asked Kanade if she would like any other help with any other subjects. She says, the only other thing I think I need help with is what would be the word? Not the word. The other thing I think I need help with is science. He says, Kura-sensei, can you give me a paper sheet of what the problems we should expect in the midterm should look like? He hands him a paper as he looks over it and says, yeah, I already have this curricular down. So he starts showing Kanade his formulas for the scientific equations, and then he shows her his vocabulary words, which are surprisingly easy to understand, even though they're giant. They're not too long to where it takes you years to memorize them. And he makes them interesting. So after studying the vocabulary terms, he then shows her how certain chemicals react to others, just in case it popped up on the test. She says then thank you as she moves on before taking the test, and she gets a 84. He hands the paper to Kura-sensei, saying the same thing as he moves on to each and every student, helping them with their subjects. Now, no student Nagisa's tutored so far has gotten below a 79. And there are currently 20 papers on Kura-sensei's desk for each individual student. Not every student has 20 papers. 20 papers collectively. So Nagisa finishes up and says, hey, teach you anything from the convenience store? I'm going out to get something to drink. No, yeah. Kura-sensei says, can you pick me up some cream cakes? As he hands him his wallet. Nagisa said, it's okay, this one's on me. He walks out. And when he gets to the gas station, he sees Ms. Yelovich. Now, it's 2 periods before language arts, so she's technically not needed on the campgrounds. And he says, Miss Irina, I didn't expect to see you here. You don't seem like the fast food type, let alone gas station food. She says, well, I didn't have much to do, so I figured I would come out and grab a bite. Now, as they're talking, Nagisa picks up cream cakes for the entire class with what he had left in his wallet. And then he pulls out his knife and asks Miss Irina, can you tell me if this blade is a good fit for me? When he pulls it out, she looks at it and says, these are similar to the ones we use on Kura-sensei. Well, and it's a fairly good material. It's good balance. But it won't work on him. He says, I know that. I plan to lead and other materials are melted in his body. This is for humans. She looks at him and says, humans? Yeah, you never know what you're encountering nowadays. For all I know, I'm gonna have to end up fighting somebody like Karma, and even though I know I could take down Karma, it'd still be a pain to fight him. Miss Irina says, fair point. I guess I get where you're coming from. Oh, so thanks anyway. And then he says, oh yeah, Miss Irina, I think I know what I want for that favor you owe me. I'll see you after class. She says, okay, kind of dreading it. And he goes back up, gives Kura-sensei 3 of the whatever you order. I think it was cream cakes. And then he passes them out to the students and says, when you finish your studying, you can eat yours. And they all thank Nagisa as he goes out and starts reading. They finish their tutoring, they all eat, and Koro-sensei is just looking over at Nagisa. He sees the book he's reading. It says, How to Cope with Blindness. Now, he looks at this and says, in his head, now why is Nagisa reading that? You can imagine that to be pretty depressing. He then, after class, calls over Karma and says, Hey Karma, what's with the book Nagisa's reading? Now, Karma looks over and looks outside and sees the book. He says, Don't you know, Teach? Nagisa's probably gonna go blind in the next year. Koro-sensei looks at Karma and says, What? How? Why? He seems completely fine. He says, It's a hereditary disease his family has. It brings on blindness in a certain amount of stages. And it's irreversible once it happens. The only thing that can cure it is a transplant using a family member with the same disease's eye. But his mother it is not from his mother's side, and his father's missing. Koro-sensei then looks over to Nagisa and feels sorry for him. He's dealing with this, along with the fact that the world's gonna end. He then says, Does anybody else know? Then he says, Well, yeah, most of our class knows. He then gets out of what? What do you mean I was the class? And how is it the first time I'm noticing this? But another side effect is his reaction speed is off the charts. As Karma pulls out one of the guns and fires it through the window at Nagisa. Nagisa catches it in his fingers and says, What's up, Karma? Why? Just why, Karma? Why? So, then he looks over to Koro-sensei and says, See? Nagisa's just staring at like, Why'd you shoot me? He says, Oh, sorry. As he keeps talking to Koro-sensei and says, See? I understand you could catch that, but a normal human shouldn't be able to. Not only that, but look at his fingers. Koro-sensei uses his sniper-like vision and sees that his fingers don't have any scratches on them. Normally, there would be a red mark, or maybe even a cut, for catching that. At least a red mark. But nothing. Koro-sensei says, So why is that? Well, you see, that is something you're gonna have to ask him. I cannot tell you that. It's his personal information. His disease is common in knowledge to all of our class. And because Nagisa is so cool about it, nobody feels sorry for him because he knows it's gonna happen. To him, it's inevitable. And if something's inevitable to him, he doesn't see a point in fighting it. But to Nagisa, almost nothing is inevitable. But this is the one thing he knows will happen. And he knows it must happen. And it is his choice to let it happen. From now on, Koro-sensei has a newfound respect for Nagisa. And now, 2 days later, midterms. They sprung up new information, like new test questions on the entire class. And as Nagisa is going through these, he's thinking, I wonder how everybody else is gonna fare. My formula should do fairly well on this, and I'm glad I showed Kanade with the chemical base mixing. So, Nagisa scores first. Karma scores fourth. And the rest of the class scores on the top 50. Now, Koro-sensei knew Nagisa was going to be top 50, but he didn't think first material. And even after when the new material was brought up, the entire class scored top 50. He's wondering why, and he's wondering what the formulas on their tests are, because they're not his. He then realizes that Nagisa tutored them so well that they memorized his own formulas and then put them into practice, just not as well as Nagisa did it to himself. Pause. Now, I'm cutting the story right here so I can explain some details about what is happening. Now, Nagisa's Mangekyo is going to be directly related to a character from the anime Naruto. Depending on his Mangekyo, will make his life choices in further steps. So depending on whether he gets Sasuke's, he may leave the country and just say, fuck it. Or if he gets Madara's, he may kill Kuro-sensei in cold blood in the end. If he gets Shisui, who knows? If he gets Itachi, who knows? It all depends on whose sharingan I end up giving him. So, I already picked someone to give it to, so, yeah. Alright, back to the story. After acing the midterms and getting the highest class average, they get to go first class in the thing. But, let's say that... Oh, wait, no, I forgot. As they're picking out their partners, Nagisa immediately calls over Karma and Kaede and says, so y'all want to be in my group? They both say yes, and then they get the other two. I don't remember their exact names because it's hard to remember Japanese names for me. And then he pulls Kanade to the side, outside, and into the woods, and then he tells Karma to make sure Koro-sensei stays in the classroom. When they're in the woods, far enough away to there's no chance that Koro-sensei would hear them, he says, I know who you are, and I would like to know what your plan is. She then says, what do you mean, Nagisa? Nagisa says, you have the tentacles. Her eyes sharpen as she says, how did you know? The same way I know that Koro-sensei was human. Same way I know that our previous teacher was your sister. In the same way I know that you have the deepest hatred for our teacher that I have seen. Your heartbeat says it all. You may be able to lower your breathing rate, but your heart rate when he's close to you. Not only that, but I can tell that your nervous system's going off the charts. You're in pain. She then says, so what are you going to do, Nagisa? Tell Koro-sensei? He then says, no. I'm going to wait till you explode. Then I'm going to save you. He kisses her on the forehead and says, okay. She blushes and says, and backs away. Why? You don't seem like the type to let something explode. Well, you see, even if you do go on a rampage, I know that I'll throw myself in front of everybody, and nobody will be hurt. So, know that. Just do me a favor. Try to keep the destruction to the area minimum. I like to graduate this year. Now, They walk back, and they all get on the train. Wait, before they get on the train, everybody's gone, and it's just Irina, Miss Yelovich, and Nagisa in the classroom. So, I'm gonna get into dialogue. So, Nagisa, what did you want? Well, you see, Miss Irina, I would like you to teach me seduction. She then says, why? It's not gonna be as easy for you, you're a man. It's much easier for a female to flaunt their assets than it is for a male. He then says, I know that, but still, seduction is a rare trait that most people will never learn. Considering you're master in it, I figured it'd be a sense for you to give me some pointers. So now, Miss Irina, I understand that you personally have killed dozens of men. I would like to see an example of how you seduced one. You can use it on me if you like, or you could practice on, or you could just act it out. She then says, okay then. And she kisses Nagisa. Mouth, full tongue, all of it. Nagisa slightly blushes, then it dies down, and nonchalantly goes with it. Ms. Yelovich pulls back and says, what? He then says, well, you see, Miss Yelovich, it's not hard to resist you. You're my teacher. I consider you a friend. And considering you're someone I've told things to, as in the contents of our class, I don't see a reason why I should give in to your charms. She then has a little mark on her forehead saying her, you little. He then says, so what about you? So you usually go with the full frontal assault on one? She then says, well, I've probably used that method 3 times. That usually works. He then says, well, not on me. But good try. Anyway, we should get to the station. We'll miss the train. At this rate. She says, yeah, you're right. And then he says, but I do want you to teach me more about seduction when we get back. God. Well, yeah. Okay, so now they're at the train station, and Nagisa says, it's good, guys. Me and my group are gonna sit and we're gonna take up our seats. No, because they don't have seats. It's good, guys. You guys can go in first class. I'm gonna go sit in the back so I can get some reading in. So Nagisa is in the back of the train, reading his book. As the principal walks over, he sits down in front of him and says, so, you're Nagisa. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've come to I've come to ask you some questions. He puts down his book and says, "What would you like to ask me, sir?" How did an E-class student on the first midterm of the year score the highest? He then says, "I was picked for that class. I wasn't put in it." He then says, "Ah, I see. You were chosen as an assassin." He says, "Yes and no. The way I see it, if I live as a lower class, no, they wouldn't expect extraordinary things from me. And if they don't expect extraordinary things from me, I don't have to provide them." He then says, "Really? Well, I don't see the point in that. You're already providing extraordinary results. You scored the highest grade point average out of every student in the school. So, tell me how that is, that the E-class, Nagisa, scored the highest grade point average in my entire school." He then smiles and says, "I'd dumb myself down so much for that class." He smiles and says, "Well, I'd like to offer you a position in A class." Nagisa says, "No thank you. Before I leave E class, I'm going to kill my sensei." The principal smiles and says, "Well, I hope you join us soon." He stands up and leaves, seeing a lot of himself in Nagisa, but some of Koro sensei. And as they arrive at the station, they get on their trip, and Kanade mentions something about some scary guys they bumped into on the way to the bathroom, and that how she can't find her itinerary. They start walking around, and when they get to the alleyway, they are jumped by the students. Now, Nagisa's in front of three people that he'd rather not show his skill to. So he asks Karma, pick a number 1 through 4. Karma says, "Well, let's go with 2. He says, "Kickboxing it is." Karma smiles and says, "Oh, yay." And then he gets into a boxing stance. As the one girl hides, and they grab Kanade and the other girl, throw them into a van, and Nagisa had just finished beating up 3 of them, and Karma just finished to beat 2 up. Now, as the other 2 are driving away, they all get up and start running, and before Nagisa can catch them, he yells back at Karma, "Go get Koro Sensei. Tell him I'll be back at the hotel with the girls." Throws him his wallet and says, "Put that in my room." Karma nods as he runs off. The girl that hid screaming, "He's not going to be okay. There were 7 of them." He then says, "He'll be fine." As they run to go get Koro Sensei. As they tell Koro Sensei, he says, we should go help Nagisa." Karma grabs his shoulder and says, "Let Nagisa do what he's doing. If you show up, he'll be mad. He told me to keep you here." Now, cut to the warehouse. The students are telling the girls how they're gonna have a personal photo shoot with them. As they hear the door open, and they say, I guess our camera crew's here. Nagisa walks in and says, "Ooh, a photo shoot? Let me join in." He takes off his shirt as they start seeing his scars. He says, "I think this will be pretty fun. Think I'm photo shoot material?" He then pulls out his knife as he says, "So girls, how much would you say you want them dead?" Kanade says, "Kill him." The other girl says, "What?" As he says, "Close your eyes." Kanade closes her eyes. The other girl closes her eyes just because she doesn't know what's going on. As Nagisa says, but as Nagisa says, "Well, let's get down to business." And then he rushes one guy, stabs him in the liver. The other one, he slits his throat along the way. He knees one in the dick as he slashes his abdomen. That's 3 down. He stabs one in the head, drops his knife, and then he snaps the neck of the second to last one. Now it's down to 1. He's staring there in horror. This kid just killed 6 other kids in the matter of seconds. And as he says, "Well then, I guess you're the last one." And then his eyes turn into his sharingan. 2 rings, 1 more ring connecting them, and they'll start to morph into his Mangekyo. Now, he says, "So, you seem like a pretty strong kid. Let's see how you fare against someone who's willing to kill you." So, he jumps on him, wraps his hand around his throat, and chilly squeezes him to death. Like a boa constrictor. Cold-blooded. He then piles up the bodies, removes his knife, and says, "Amaterasu." His eyes hurt in pain as he has a bloodstream going down his right eye. And the bodies flare up. This is his 3rd high-level jutsu. Shadow Clone, Flying Raijin, and Amaterasu. Now, the bodies burn up, leaving no trace of blood or anything. As he wipes off his knife and then burns the tissue with the fire, he extinguishes it. He then says, "Open up your eyes." The girls look to see nobody's there, but to see Nagisa has some blood on his cheek. And his knife is sheathed again. They say, "What happened?" Nagisa says, "I took care of them, and they won't be seeing you again." Now, he says, "Well, sorry about this." Illusion, he puts him in a genjutsu and makes it look like they walked all the way back to the room. And then he uses Flying Raijin to get there. And now they're in the room. And it's done. Now, that is as far into assassination a costume I've watched today. I should be recording another video for the Night's Up, so may post that. So yeah. And, should I give some commentary? Oh yeah, do you guys want me to do a what if Deku? I haven't done one recently, and I figured it might be a good idea. Okay. Well, I'm Duel, we are Asame, you are the demons, and I'm out. Like, share, subscribe, peace out.